Hello, welcome back to the Mass Extinction series, where I'm teaming up with Colossal to cover each of the mass extinction events in Earth's history. This time we're checking out the Devonian Mass Extinction, which happened about 360 million years ago. The planet was getting slammed with different extinction pulses for different reasons, and had a massive impact on life that was becoming slightly more familiar with what we know today. Before we get into it, let's do a little recap on what exactly a mass extinction is. Regular extinction is expected. Right? Planet is always changing, and species can either change with it or be SOL. But sometimes huge changes cause lots of extinction, and tons of species disappear in a relatively short time, all over the world. That's a mass extinction. These events are horrific, and also fascinating. By studying mass extinctions, we learn how our world got the way it is now, and where it's headed. Right now, rates of extinction are so high that we might be on the verge of a modern mass extinction. Scientists predict that if this trend continues, we could lose up to 50% of all species on Earth by 2050. Throughout Earth's history, there are 5 famous mass extinction events. The Big Five. In each one, more than 70% of life on Earth died out. In this series, we're exploring the causes and effects of the Big Five, one by one, to lay out what we know about mass extinctions of the past, so we can prevent another one. So now let's get into one of the most complicated of the Big Five, the Devonian Mass Extinction. The Devonian period lasted from 419 to 359 million years ago. This is way before mammals or dinosaurs first evolved, but a familiar version of Earth was taking shape at this time. The biggest continent at the time was the southern landmass of Gondwana. There were also lots of mountain ranges forming as the various continents slowly crashed together. Eventually they would form the supercontinent Pangaea, but not yet. Devonian oceans were teeming with life. Corals and sponges formed massive reefs that were home to diverse ecosystems of plankton, sea lily, lamp shells, and more. Some of the most famous Devonian fossils include trilobites. Probably remember them from last time. Cone-shelled cousins of squids, and giant sea scorpions, including Gecolopterus. They got to over 8 feet long. They're considered the largest arthropod to ever exist, that we know of. Also, there were so many fish. The Devonian is also known as the Age of Fishes. Saltwater and freshwater were full of ancient lungfish, coelacanths, early relatives of sharks and rays, strange jawless fish, and armored placoderms like the famous Dunkleosteus. And some of these fish were even moving on to land. Bye-bye, ocean. The earliest land vertebrates are known from the Devonian. Fishy, salamandery things like Tiktaalik, Acanthostega, the ancestors of all amphibians, reptiles, birds, and mammals. The reason you have taxes today.
I will find you, and I will kill you.
The land was also home to invertebrates, including ancient relatives of millipedes, insects, and spiders. And all these animals made their living in some of Earth's earliest vegetated habitats, which included the oldest known seed plants, and the very first trees. There was a time of the first trees. They didn't exist before. Despite these unbelievable evolutionary innovations, life wasn't easy. The Devonian was absolutely plagued with extinctions. Earlier, I called it the Devonian Mass Extinction singular, but it isn't actually one event, it's a whole ton of them. The fossil record shows several pulses of extinctions over the course of about 20 million years. And by the end of it all, about 75% of species all over the world had gone extinct. Scientists aren't even sure exactly how many extinction pulses there were in total, but 2 of them in particular were a very big deal. The Colossal event, around 370 million years ago, and the Hindenburg event, about 360 million years ago. At both of these times, the geologic record provides 2 major signs of devastation: extinctions in the fossil record, and black shales, which are rocks that form from marine sediments in anoxic conditions, i.e. water's low in oxygen. These shale deposits reflect multiple periods of anoxia. This happens when ocean chemistry and circulation gets messed up, and oxygen isn't able to reach certain parts of the undersea realm. And obviously, that is bad news if you are a sea creature who needs oxygen to live, which is most of them, including things like plankton and coral, the foundation of ocean ecosystems. When they die off, everything else goes with them. At least a lot of things. Lots of things go with them. I won't generalize, but lots of things. Ocean anoxia usually happens when Earth's carbon cycle gets thrown out of whack. So what is the reason for this? In the Devonian, there were 2 forces at play that were really good at messing with carbon. And if you watch the last video on the Ordovician mass extinction, they will sound familiar. Yeah, volcanoes and plants. Like I said before, the Devonian was home to Earth's first forests. Those plants churned up the ground and created the first true soils. Thanks to the actions of plants and animals, soil becomes full of mineral nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus. And a lot of these nutrients end up getting washed into the sea by rain and rivers. And high concentrations of those nutrients in the water cause blooms of algae and cyanobacteria. And once these microbes use up all their nutrients, they die off, leaving behind massive piles of decomposing material. And the chemical process of decay sucks up oxygen. So, if there's enough decomposition going on, you get anoxic waters. But plants aren't alone in causing algal blooms. Volcanoes also release chemical nutrients from the gases and minerals that they produce, so they can also cause blooms the same way. We know there was a lot of volcanic activity going on at the time because there are massive deposits of cooled lava flows in Siberia that date to later parts of the Devonian period. Also, at the time of both major extinction events, rocks are enriched with chemicals like mercury, which are another thing that get released with volcanoes. So, on top of all the oxygen problems, ecosystems might have been struggling with mercury poisoning too. The classic double whammy. But it wasn't just low oxygen and volcanic chemicals messing things up. Somehow there's more. Both the Kellwasser and Hindenburg events feature evidence of climate change. Changes in the chemistry of minerals and fossil shells from these times reflect cooling temperatures. Cooling climate can also be linked to both plants and volcanoes. While they photosynthesize, plants pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere. CO2 is a greenhouse gas. It traps heat in the air. So with less carbon dioxide around, the climate becomes cooler. Likewise, volcanoes can spew out dark gases that block sunlight, depriving the world of heat, and cooling lava forms new rocks, which get weathered away by the air in a chemical process that also pulls CO2 out of the atmosphere. When the climate changes faster than life can adapt to it, it's bad news for ecosystems all over the world. Most of the evidence for these Devonian extinctions comes from the ocean fossil record, but during the Hindenburg event, the second major pulse, paleontologists have also noticed major losses in the fossil record of pollen and spores on land. That makes sense. Colder temperatures and environmental toxins are really bad for plants. So, thanks to some combination of volcanic activity and thriving land plants, we've got messed up ocean chemistry, fluctuating global temperatures, and toxic chemicals making life super hard for things like corals and plankton and plants. And when those groups have a hard time, cracks the foundations of the ecosystems that rely on them. Those pulses of extinction in the fossil record are the result of collapsing global ecosystems. And that's not even all the Devonian troubles. Paleontologists have found Devonian fossil spores from Greenland that showed deformities that might have been caused by harsh UV radiation. This is potentially a sign that the ozone layer was damaged at this time too. Ozone layer damage can be a side effect of those changing atmospheric conditions, although there are some other hypotheses as well. Some scientists have suggested the damage might have been caused by a nearby supernova, which is nuts and horrifying, but there doesn't seem to be any direct evidence for this as of right now that we know of. And just for good measure, there were asteroids too. The rock record of the late Devonian features craters and microscopic globs of glass, the kind that are caused when large asteroids smash into the Earth. Asteroid impacts can also mess with the atmosphere by kicking up lots of gases into the air, not to mention their devastating effects on anything living nearby the crash site. There are signs of multiple large asteroid impacts in the Devonian, but so far scientists aren't sure that these impacts line up with the timing of the extinction pulses. So for now, whether these asteroids were actually part of the problem is up in the air. Sorry. All in all, the last 20 million years of the Devonian period were a complete mess. It was just one thing after another. Researchers are still working on sorting out the chaotic series of causes and effects. But one thing's for sure, it was a rough time for life on Earth. When that chaos finally ended, about 75% of species disappeared. Those great Devonian reefs were destroyed. Corals and sponges and plankton suffered massive losses, and their ecosystems fell apart without them. The armored placoderms, Dunkleosteus and its cousins, completely extinct. And also most of the jawless fish. Trilobites almost disappear completely, but they live on, with only one subgroup surviving. Up on land, plants took a big hit too, and so did the ecosystems they supported. Scientists used to think that these extinctions might have totally wiped out land ecosystems, because there's a time span of about 20 million years after the Devonian where there are almost no fossils from land species. But paleontologists have started finding more fossils from this time. So, life on land might have not been hit quite as badly as we thought. Bad, but not that bad. After the Devonian comes the Carboniferous period, one of my personal favorites. Many groups of life eventually bounce back. In the sea, cephalopods, bivalves, and various fish will make big comebacks. On land, things get nuts, as plants form massive swamps and forests. And those early land vertebrates give rise to amphibians, reptiles, and the ancestors of mammals. Life on Earth goes on to become more diverse than ever before, until the next mass extinction. This is the second episode in a 6-part series on mass extinctions. Make sure to follow Colossal's YouTube channel for the next episode, where we're going to examine the worst mass extinction of all time, the Permian extinction. See ya then!